Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to our first Foreman community demo of 2026. It's great to have you all here as we kick off this year and dive into some of the latest updates. Yeah, so let's get started. First of all, for any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on the Foreman group chat on Metrics, or during the demo, you can also use the Google chat here to speak up. And let's have a look at the agenda for today. As I mentioned before, I've made a small adjustment to the order of the topics for today's demo to better accommodate our schedule. So we'll cover everything as planned, so we can start. Okay, before we start with the demos, just a quick reminder, we'll be at two major events soon, the Foreman booth at FOSDEM and the Foreman booth and room at Config Management Camp. It will be great to see some of you there. And yeah, our next demo will be right after the conferences. So be sure to share all the highlights and updates from both of the events. Yeah, and our first topic for today is a developer-focused demo. We'll be diving into the technical side of Foreman and exploring some key development aspects. And yeah, so let's get started with the SSH certificate by Adam.
Yeah, all right, let me share my screen. Actually, I might have maybe messed up the description. I think it's also user-focused as well, since it's a feature that you can try out. And so, yeah, so I will be presenting the support for SSH certificates in remote execution. Some users requested this to avoid the trust on first use model that we currently have. And this is already available on Nightly. So feel free to try it out if you wish. The official documentation is in the works, but will be available soon. Well, so first of all, if you want to use SSH certificates, you need your own SSH certificate authority. And once you do have this, then the first step you want to do, you go on your capsule server and you want to sign the key which your Foreman proxy uses. And by default, this is in vorlib, Foreman proxy, SSH, IDRSA Foreman proxy. So let's sign this key. Actually, it's SSH without the dot. Sorry. All right. So if I take a look now at the directory, vorlib, Foreman proxy, SSH, there is a new file which is IDRSA Foreman proxy cert pub. And also I signed it with this certificate authority, which I had prepared before this demo. You don't have to have this on the same server as the smart proxy server. You can as well just export your proxy public key to whatever CA server you want, sign it there, and then import it back. So that's also an option. And now that we have this signed certificate, we have to run Foreman installer with this very long argument, unfortunately. So it's Foreman proxy plugin remote execution script SSH user CA public key file, and then you input the public key of your certificate authority. So let's run that. Hopefully it won't take too much time. And so if we enable this feature like this, it will work like out of the box on all the newly registered hosts. If you want to enable it like for the existing hosts as well, there are some extra steps that need to be done. and I will mention those in the official documentation once it's out. Okay, so the Foreman's running. Right now, I'm going to generate a registration command for a host, which I'm going to register. Okay, and now that I have a registered host, I am going to run a job on this host. And so currently the proxy should use the SSH certificate for authentication as opposed to just plain SSH key. Okay, so the job passes, but what we are interested in, when we go to the host and we run journal ctl user sshd, and I go down, then I can see on this line that the public key that was accepted was actually a certificate. There's RSA cert, there is its ID. And so this is how we know that the SSH certificate was used instead of the plain SSH key authentication. So this is one part of the feature. You can authenticate your smart proxy to hosts with using the certificate. But if you want, you can also authenticate your hosts to smart proxy with certificates as well, just to enhance the security. So for that, we also need like certificate authority. It can be the same authority with which you signed the smart proxy cert. It can be different authority as well. And it also can be like multiple certificate authorities for the host certs. You just take all of the public keys and put them in one file. But for this simple example right here, I also have prepared the etc SSH host CA, that is my certificate authority. So I'm going to sign one of the host's public keys, and it has to be one of the keys in etc SSH, and then SSH _ host _ something. There's 3 of those keys. I mean, technically it can be any key, but once again, there are then some additional steps required, which will be also mentioned in the documentation. But I'm going to sign this key to get a host certificate, and I'm going to export the public key of this host certificate authority to my smart proxy server. Okay. And now I need to run another command to enable this feature. And also, we will need to perform some additional steps on the host. But before we do that, I'm going to show you that if I just enable the feature, then the authentication will not pass if we don't configure the host properly. So Foreman installer. Okay, so that is another very long argument. Foreman proxy plugin remote execution script SSH host CA public keys file, and in this file you can have you can have multiple public keys if you want to have multiple like host certificate authorities. So I know I put it in the root directory. While that is running, I'm actually going to confirm the steps that need to be done on the host, because I might have forgotten, but I have them written down. So, okay, let me copy that. I'm actually going to prepare it. All right. Okay, so the proxy was once again restarted. Let's run a job and let's confirm that the job will fail because we didn't yet configure the host to properly authenticate with the host certificate. Yes, the job fails. And it says that there is no host key known for the host. So what we have to do on a host is to give it a directive, trusted user CA keys, then the path to the public key of the host certificate authority. We have to put that in a config file. And then we have to restart the SSHD service. Now the host knows that it should present this host certificate. So if we now rerun the job, it should pass once again. But of course, this is live demo, so obviously that won't happen. Okay. I can swear to all the gods that I tried this before the design, it worked. Well, I probably will not troubleshoot. Might have been like some small config like change that I did on the server before the demo started that is preventing me. But yeah, you can for now you guys can trust me that it works normally when I'm not presenting live. So are there any questions?
Don't worry, Adam, it happens all the time. Live demos just never works out as expected. I have one question about, yeah, it's okay. One question about the documentation you mentioned. Is it finished? Like, do we have the documentation for it, or is it?
It's not finished yet.
Okay.
It will be available soon.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll.
I'd rather not give a precise time estimate, but yeah, but I would hope within at max like a couple of weeks probably.
Okay, perfect. So we'll wait until then. Yeah, and I don't see any more questions. So I guess we're ready to move on to our next topic. Okay, so I'm presenting again. Next topic is from Lucy, a CSV expert on host server overview.
Thank you, Notha. Share my screen here. And today I'm going to show you a new feature with all hosts. We will add the CSV export functionality to the host's overview page. giving you the power to extract and analyze your infrastructure data in any spreadsheet application you prefer. With one click, you can now export your entire host inventory or just a filter subset directly to a CSV format. And here's what makes it powerful. It respects your current search and filters, and it exports exactly the columns you will configure in your table preferences. This means you get all in the data you need and format it exactly how you want it. Now let me show you how this works. First, the simplest use case, I will just click the export button here on the top. And there we go, instant CSV download. And it contains all the hosts. Oops, let me close that. Now let me show you something more powerful. Say I'm not interested in these servers whose name started with word who. So I will use the search bar here. Notice how the table updates to show you only the matching hosts. Now export. And the CSV contains only the filtered results. This is perfect for creating targeted reports. And here is the best part. You control what gets exported. I can choose which columns appear in my table here. And these columns will be the same in the CSV export file. So you can do that from manage columns. For example, let's select organization, owner maybe, or maybe, okay, owner here. And let's save that. When the table show up, you will see it has different views. Now we have organization and owner. Now export. Owner, organizations. So you see the export file automatically matches your view in the UI. In summary, CSV export gives you flexibility and control over your host data. It's simple to use, but powerful when you need it. That's all I have for today.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. So I guess we're ready to move on to our next demo. Yeah, by Quinn, Bootc host, generate container file install command using UI and misc updates.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nafar. Hi, everyone. This is just an addendum to the presentation that I did in December. I don't actually have a slide deck today. It's just going to be a live demo. So there's a couple new additions to the package persistence, how we handle it inside of bootable container images. Just a quick refresher for the last 4 times we've talked about this. Package persistence is in a bootable container. It's like a package that's running in memory, I guess, for lack of a better term, if it's running transiently. Persistent packages are built into the image that you're actually booting as the bootable container image host. Transient packages, you need to actually add a line to your container file in order to install those packages as part of the image next time you rebuild the image. I guess we can start with the web UI. We still have this persistence column. There's a new addition here where you can do a quick filter by persistence, filtering for unknown, persistent, transient. We now have, if I sort by name here. We now have a new action in this page where you can select as many packages as you'd like. Let me get an unknown one too. So I have 5 selected. Some of them are persistent, some are transient, some are unknown. If you go here and generate a container file install command, this will give you a command that it's intended to be copy pasted into your container file to add the transient packages permanently next time you rebuild the image. We also have an option for including packages with unknown persistence. So we go from 1 transient package to 2 when I include the 1 unknown one that I selected earlier. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this. There's you know, some I guess ancillary stuff there. One more thing to mention is this is now part of the container file install command hammer command and API that we talked about last time. We have a new parameter for including the unknown persistence. And I think that's it. I can answer any questions if anyone would like, but yeah, just a quick presentation to show the new features on this. These are still set for Catella 4.20. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Quinn. Yeah, we don't have any questions, so we can move on to our next demo by Tim. So OpenBolt integration into Foreman. Tim, whenever you're ready.
Yes, thank you. You should see my screen now. Perfect. So we did an integration of OpenBolt into Foreman. Before I talk about the actual integration, a few words about what actually is Foreman and what are Foreman tasks and plans. We all probably wrote some kind of hacky shell scripts over the past years to automate some kind of infrastructure. And within the Puppet ecosystem, we noticed it would be very helpful if we could reuse those different scripts. And some people write those scripts in actual shell, some in Perl, Python. Some people like to write small utilities in Rust or in Go. So someone came up with the idea to write a very short metadata file which describes input and output parameters to all those different executables or to those different scripts. One example is oh, my screenshot died, I guess. Well, that's annoying. 1 second. Let me try to share it again. Hopefully it works this time. Send screen. Try again. You maybe see my terminal now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So as I said, JSON files. We have small JSON files that take up a few keys, for example, a description for something that we want to execute and some kind of parameters that we want to pass into the scripts or the binaries. And if you are a bit familiar with writing Puppet code, you may notice the input parameters that we have can have data types. Those are validated with Puppet, so we can reuse existing Puppet data types. And this is a very, very simple example. I have one shell script. It takes one parameter as input, and it will be passed as an environment variable into my script. And this really doesn't do a lot. Defines a shebang and executes the parameter that was passed into the script. And Bolt is a CLI application, and I can run the provided task and pass a list of targets where the stuff is executed. I pass the parameter, and this should be just printed on standard out on all the nodes that I have in my environment. And I see I have a few targets, and on all targets, just the stuff is executed. So not the most complex stuff, but for a demo, this should work. Now, this is very nice, and it's very helpful, but it's just a CLI application. And in addition to those tasks, there are also plans, and plans are written in the Puppet language. And in those plans, I can combine all the different tasks that I might have written. And since all the tasks have a defined schema for input parameters, and if they return some data, that can also be defined in the JSON schema. And this allows me within plans to combine different tasks, for example, connect to a system, check if a certain package is installed. If it's not installed, install the package, pass the return value of the task. If the tasks failed, rerun the task on the failed targets, stuff like this, and build very, very complex logic. And this is a very nice addition to traditional config management. This allows me to do some orchestration like I can do with Salt or with Ansible. And the big benefit of Bolt is that I can reuse my existing Puppet code, and I can use the knowledge that I have from writing Puppet stuff for writing the plans. Now, many people would like to use a web UI to run this stuff, or an API. Bolt doesn't have that right now. Most of the people that use Puppet already have a Foreman installation as well. So we decided it doesn't make much sense to create a new standalone web application or API, and instead it makes more sense to integrate Bolt into Foreman. And that's what happened in the past couple of months. This is my demo environment, Foreman 3.17. We have a Foreman plugin, which provides me a new UI option. And we also have a Smart Proxy plugin, which I have installed on a few nodes. Puppet tasks and plans are distributed via Puppet modules. And I can select one of the smart proxies that I have. Then Foreman will talk to the smart proxy. The smart proxy will read locally all the different tasks that are available, and I can select some of them. And then I can select on what kind of nodes I would like to execute those tasks. I can just filter by hosts. For more complex scenarios, I can also select some host groups. Let's just take this one. Now, since all the tasks have the metadata, that's also something that can be passed and displayed in the web UI. The demo gods aren't very helpful today. The metadata information are also displayed. And yeah, if I have some parameters that I can pass to a task, they are also displayed in the web UI. Some of them are mandatory, marked with the asterisk. If there is a data type, I can also see what kind of values are allowed and which values are not allowed. And yeah, we can give it a try. I have the feeling that my demo environment died a couple of minutes ago, but let's see. So there is a service task, which basically allows me to inspect if a certain systemd service is running or not. Let's just run it everywhere. And let's see if it still passes or not. This will probably fail on a couple of nodes because it does SSH key verification. Yes. And yeah, that's basically why it's not working at the moment. That's annoying. I might be able to fix that. The two plugins that we wrote are already available in the Foreman repositories for apt and for Debian. It's also available in the Foreman installer. However, that's not yet released. And with the release of Foreman 3.18, you should be able to install all the stuff directly via the Foreman installer. If you would like to use the Puppet modules to manage your installation, that already works out of the box. That's also what I used here. Okay, now my Puppet fixed my firewalling, and that should allow me to use the correct smart proxy. And let's try it again. So I would like to see if my SSHD is running. Let's run it in debug mode. Now it's executing Bolt on the smart proxy itself, and Foreman is pulling the state. And that's supposed to look like this. Perfect. So one node, I didn't accept the host key on purpose, but on the other nodes, the tasks were executed successfully. The task has some JSON data that's always returned. And I can now see that my SSHD process is running. I get the PID back. And yeah, this basically allows me to run all the tasks that are available right now. And the nice thing here is via the Puppet Forge, where Puppet modules are shared, are also Puppet tasks and Puppet plans available. And we will implement support for running plans via the Foreman web UI, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And yes, I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tim. It's always great to see new integrations into Foreman. Yeah, I don't see any questions, so we can move on to the docs update by Maximilian.
Yeah, thanks. Apologies for being late. I did not find the URL to join. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm going to do a very short Happy New Year edition of the documentation update. So what happened in the last 3 weeks, I'm presenting on behalf of all the maintainers and contributors. Yeah, what did we do? We continued the story with splitting modules by UI. So splitting them between mostly web UI and Hammer CLI based procedures. We finished the using Foreman API guide. We finished the monitoring hosts chapter. And in the managing content guide, we addressed 4 different chapters: the content access control for hosts, managing application lifecycles, managing content views, and managing custom file type content. The managing content guide is quite big, and I suspect it'll take us, maybe 1 or maybe 2 more community demos until we're done with that. Then what else? We added some new content as announced last time. We have a new build target for Foreman CTL, so the new deployment tool for Foreman Catalog in a containerized way. The target is Foreman CTL for Catalog, and we have 2 more build targets, so basically flavors of the build documentation that are for downstream. We also added more content, for example, procedures to upload Debian packages by using the web UI or Hammer CLI, and we added the default OS content for /16.0. So if you use the Foreman SCC Manager plugin, this is basically the content that you almost always want to synchronize and enable to provision and manage hosts running /16. We reworked two parts of the documentation. So Lightspeed, I believe formerly known as Insights, it was split into two parts. So first for Lightspeed in the Red Hat cloud, that is available and shown for Catalog as well. So on theforeman.org, and for the version that runs on premises, so on your satellite server, basically. And then for the Foreman installer, the support for Puppet 7 was removed. Yeah. And last but not least, in progress, we're currently reworking a reference module about bootloaders that are fetched over HTTP, and this is currently in progress. And yeah, that's all from my side for today. Thanks.
Thank you, Maximilian. I have no questions, so let's move on. Right, so to wrap up today's session, we have one more developer-focused demo. This will take a closer look at a context-based front-end permissions management by Thorben.
Okay, great. I hope this is going to work. Screen sharing is always a thing. Is everything working correctly? Nothing started burning. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to have a quick chat about this pull request, which was merged a couple days ago. Thanks to everyone who gave input. And yeah, as you already said, it does something in regards to front-end permission management. So yeah, you'll have to excuse the greenness of the instances. Unfortunately, all the VMs I have are green, but it doesn't make a difference. This is now merged into Foreman develop. And yeah, we'll just have a quick look at the all hosts page. So I'm using a demo user, which doesn't have the view hosts permission. And as you can see on the old hosts page, that's working correctly. I am not allowed to see the page, and I'm being told, yeah, you're missing the permission. So this page is rendered on the back end. It's ERB, and there's already a check in there that checks whether my current user is allowed to view something, and if I'm not, then yeah, I'm going to be shown this. If we now go to the new hosts page, which is written in React, then we can see, okay, something failed. I'm getting an error. Request failed with status code 403. Now, I, of course, know 403 that's unauthorized, but the user probably doesn't, and will Google this and find out that way that, yeah, they're not allowed to see this. And really, it doesn't help me to fix this issue in any way, because why am I not authorized? What's missing? Okay, there used to be only pretty much one major way to address this, and that is by making a request to this endpoint, which is API v2 permissions / current user permissions. No user, no, just current permissions, which basically just returns all the permissions my current user has. You would then go on to filter those and check for, in this case, the view hosts permission. You can already see what I've done here. And based on whether this is included in this list, render the new hosts page or render the permission denied component. On this instance, I have now used the new approach, which was introduced just a couple of days ago, to do exactly that. And I'll now show you just how much easier this has gotten, because this pull request introduced two new things. One is this, a new component called permitted, and the other is a new hook called use permissions. Both take an array of required permissions. And yeah, for this VM, I have now used this permitted component to handle the view hosts permission. And as you can see, I currently have it. And if I now change something in the database, which you absolutely shouldn't do, but just change something to pretend like I don't have the permission, then I'll reload the page and it'll now show me the wrong thing. Great, because I changed the wrong permission. Yeah, that's on me. I'll fix it and I'll reload it again. Correct. Now it actually does tell me that, yeah, I'm not allowed to see this because I don't have the view hosts permission. So as I said, this was already possible before, but if we now take a very quick look at the code, all I've done now is, this is the route where the host index page is actually rendered. And all I've done is replace this, which was calling the host index page, with a call to hosts index wrapper. Looking at it now, I probably wouldn't use the wrapper again, because all the wrapper does is take the host index page, wrap it inside this permitted component, and tell the component that to view this, I need the view hosts permission. So that's all there is to it. No API request, no nothing. And yeah, if I now give myself the permission back, as you've seen, it's view hosts with an S, only one S, not two. Then when I reload the page again, it should show me that, okay, everything's working again. I am allowed to see this, and the thing is actually rendered correctly. So that's the permitted component. And the second thing is the use permissions hook. That's a bit more fine-grained, I guess, because all the permitted component does is take some array of permissions, take a component, and if I have all of the permissions I have told it to check, then yeah, just render the component. But for example, I want to now, based on whether the user has the create hosts permission, disable or enable this button. As you can see, it's currently enabled, which is correct. I have the create hosts permission. If I now take that away, then I can reload the page again. And come on. Now, exactly, the button is disabled, and it tells me, yeah, you don't have the create hosts permission. You should probably get that from the admin. So this, as I said, it's just a hook. You can use it however you see fit. In my case, what you've just seen is this thing. It's a very quick and probably not very clean component I just whipped up called permitted button. It also just takes a permissions array and more or less just disables the button and displays this nice popover that tells you what's wrong. But the gist of it is that it also uses this use permissions hook with the required permissions array. And the only change I had to make to the actual host index page was this. I just replaced the button, gave it this array of, yeah, well, that's new, gave it this new array of permissions, which in my case is just one, create hosts, and that's it. If I now, as you've already seen, not have the permission, it'll tell me, yeah, you don't have this, and disables the button, which is, in my opinion, a better solution than just hiding it, because who knows, maybe it's broken. If I've now just given myself the permission back, this should now render the button correctly. Yes, it's enabled again. I could click it and create a new host. Exactly how I'm supposed to, because I now have gotten the permission. So it does this, not, as I said, with the API, but the whole new thing basically is that all of those permission checks are being done using the Foreman context, which, like, if you're not into this front-end stuff, then that's more or less a global variable, I guess. it's most similar to, it's just something that's available to every component. And that now includes the user permissions, which those hooks and components then use to check against. And that's like implemented in a way that's also really fast. It's like, for example, the hook uses, I think it's a hash map. So that is basically irrelevant in terms of how long actually does this take to run, which if you compare it to an API request, yeah, that's probably going to add 100, 200 something milliseconds to your load time, because depending on just what exactly the backend is doing, it'll have to process, it'll have to process your request, and maybe it takes a little longer than it should. So this also speeds up page load times quite substantially. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything I've said, I've also written down in this document, Foreman developer docs handling user permissions. Both, or I guess all three ways are shared. This like is the comparison, I guess. This uses the API. I mean, it works, but it's quite a lot of code, which, again, compared to just wrapping your thing in one single component, I think that's quite the improvement, and that's before all the speed gains. So if you have to do front-end permissions, then give this a read, check it out. I think it works actually really well. And yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, I guess no more questions. Yeah, so thank you, Thorben. Thank you for the PR. I can share that I'm already using it in a Foreman RH Cloud, another PR that I have. So thank you, and also thank you for explaining like the process behind it and the way it was implemented. It was very useful. Yeah, that was all for today because I didn't see any more questions. So our next demo is in 4 weeks on February 12th. And yeah, I would like to thank everyone for joining and for sharing your demos with us today. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.